Hey friends, let's have some fun today and make some Valentines. There are countless styles and colors you can use for painting hearts. Hopefully this video will just help spark your own inner creativity and just give you a few good launching points for doing your own unique watercolor designs. If you want to get similar effects to what I'm doing in this video for your own watercolor Valentines, I do recommend using a high quality cotton watercolor paper that's at least 140 pounds or heavier. The paper I'm using for this project today is Arches 12 by 16 inch, 140 pound cold pressed watercolor paper. And just using a pencil and a ruler, I've already divided the sheet into 8 equal rectangles in which I'll paint 8 different Valentine hearts. For my first heart, which is going to be a rainbow design, I just go ahead and draw a heart on. Anybody can draw a heart, right? It's pretty easy. It's just a couple of candy cane shapes, right? So just make sure that all of your paint colors that you plan to use are already wet and activated. I've sprayed mine with a spray bottle ahead of time. I start with the dark pink and then blend some red into it. I'm always cleaning my brush between colors to keep them pure. I'm working with fairly wet but also very pigmented paint for this project because I want my colors to be really bright. I do a wide strip of golden yellow and then blend the two edges with orange. I do the green stripe, painting quickly so that my side-by-side colors will bleed slightly into each other. I also like to add a couple of intentional imperfections. Turquoise blue is next. The idea here is to be concise with your colors, but we're not aiming for perfection. It's okay to let your heart be a little bit lopsided and to allow the outline of the shape to look imperfect. I think the visual image of a heart really represents people in general. It represents all of the emotions, the joy, the pain, and also the imperfections and the beauty. I think that's why hearts and their simplicity are so beautiful and so attractive. I add a couple of drops of water while the paint is still damp, and these will bloom into lovely little blossom shapes. The second heart is intended to look rough and very imperfect. It's so much fun to paint these, and I think anybody can do this. It's so easy. So I painted a rough heart just with a clean wet brush without any drawing first. And then I grab some red and just drop it into the wet areas, leaving some sections totally untouched. The key here is to not overwork or overthink it. Touch up the edges and add some more water as you see fit, but don't push around the paint too much. For my third heart, I'm going to do a pencil outline and then paint inside the shape with clean water. This is just going to be a simple wet into wet heart using my liquid watercolors. Of course, you can use any of the watercolors you have, just make sure they're wet enough so that you can just drop color right in. Using the dropper in my liquid watercolor, I drop in some beautiful rose red, just watching it move and bloom wherever the paint is wet. I take a damp brush with clean water and spread the paint around to reach the whole rest of the heart shape. This is such a fun, easy technique and yields very beautiful results. For my fourth heart, I'm using a cookie cutter to create my heart shape. This one will be wet into wet also, so I paint the heart with clean water first. One of my favorite color combinations is blue and green, so for this one I'm just using Viridian and Phthalo blue. While the paper is wet, I drop in the paint, alternating between the two colors. They will granulate and blend beautifully on the wet paper. Be careful again not to overwork it. Lay down the paint and just leave it alone. This one also has a balloon ribbon attached with the cursive word love painted into it. I just found a cursive font on Pinterest that I liked and copied that. My next heart is going to look a little more 3D. To create that effect, we just need to make sure that there is a highlight and a shadow. So I'm wetting the heart shape again, no drawing first. I've left a small section dry just on the right top part of the heart where I want to leave a shiny spot. And then I drop in a generous amount of my rose-colored paint, blending it, refining the edge, and leaving that bright white shine. Then I darken the bottom left with a dark, deep red to suggest a shadow. With the addition of this highlight and shadow effect, I think the heart looks puffy and three-dimensional. For the next one, I draw on the heart first. This one is going to be kind of interesting. I live in Colorado, so I wanted to replicate that somewhat in my heart, in my Valentine. So this one's going to be layers of mountains. That might sound a little intimidating, but it's actually really easy. I'll have to do it in steps and paint gradually as each layer dries. The first layer is just a solid color of your choice. I'm going with green just to mix it up. So I'll paint the whole thing a solid color and then let it dry. While that's drying, I'm using my cookie cutter again for this one, painting water around the outside of the heart. And then dropping red into the water, letting it bleed away from the white. Using a clean wet brush, I can adjust the bleed as needed, leaving the center of the heart dry and white. I come back to my green heart again and add a darker layer in the shape of a mountain silhouette. This is all just made up from imagination. Returning to my messy heart, we're not quite finished with this one. One of my favorite effects to add to watercolors is the splatter effect. I am careful to protect my other Valentines with paper towel before grabbing some wet red paint and tapping my brush over the heart. I'm now adding a third layer to my mountain heart, a much darker silhouette of green. Using a gold gel pen now, I carefully write the word "Be Mine" in a lovely cursive font onto the white heart. Of course, you can use any kind of font or any kind of handwriting and any text you want for your Valentines. I like how the gold looks, and it shows up really well over the top of the watercolor. I then add a gold outline to my red, wet, and wet heart too. I just need one more layer on my mountain heart, and I think that one's done. My 3D heart is now dry, so I can add a word. I'm going to add the word love in gold across the middle. And I'll also do an XOXO on my rainbow heart. For my final experiment, I'm going to start the same way as my messy splatter heart, just by painting on a rough, wet layer first, in the shape of a rough heart, and then I drop the paint in. For this one, I want to get a drip effect, so I have to tilt my paper and then let some red paint drip down and just run down in drips. This one is your classic bleeding heart. I cover up my other Valentines to protect them again with paper towel and then add some splatter to my bleeding heart. Now to make the cards, you can do this any way you want. I just bought some gold cards in a rectangle shape and then some red heart-shaped cards as well. The size and shape of my paintings determined whether I was going to use the heart-shaped ones or the rectangled ones, so I ended up with 3 hearts and 5 rectangles. I started with my shiny 3D heart, leaving a white border as I cut it out, and then I glued it onto the card. In order to avoid buckling or warping in my cards, all of them needed to be flattened under a book or something flat and heavy while they dried. I used the same method with my rainbow heart and my red outline heart, flattening all of them with my book as they dry. A fun scrapbooking technique I like to use sometimes is where I just tear the edge so that it has a really nice vintage rough look to it. I used this technique with my mountain heart and then glued it onto the rectangle card. For my red heart with the gold outline, I really liked the simplicity of the rectangle shape, so I just glued it on directly to the card just as it was. And again, placed it under my book to dry. I used my tearing method for the edges of my splatter heart. With the bleeding heart, I decided to just tear the vertical sides and left the top and bottom alone. And for the blue heart, I cut carefully around it, leaving a white border. For my final touch, I added a couple of diamond and pearl stickers to each of my heart-shaped cards. You can add as many embellishments as you like. The fun thing about this project is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Choose your colors, choose your design, just have fun. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, please hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you never miss any new videos. I'll be posting new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Thank you so much for watching today.